Oh yeah, introduce ourselves.
I'm Alyssa. Hi, I'm Ashley Whitaker.
Hello, I'm Quintus.
Ashley,
Felicia.
Carly. And we're group 9.
Okay, so everyone ready for the first question?
Yes.
Okay. For the first reading, previously this term we talked about gender as a performance or doing gender, where an individual is constantly working to achieve masculinity or femininity through actions, gestures, adornments, mannerisms, etc. How is masculinity performed in prison?
through sports.
Yeah. And through like anger and like physical like
confinement.
Someone who's in prison. Even when you watch the shows like Locked Up, people try to gain respect and stuff like being the tough guys and doing like you said, hiding different things like that. So.
Yeah, and like showing. I feel like they like want to show dominance.
Yeah.
Like I'm better than you, and they talk about like raping, like male rape in jail because like it shows dominance. It shows like this person is you're more feminine than me. I'm gonna rape you because I'm gonna show that I'm over you in a way.
It says in here on page 82, just like the first part, something that I picked up. It says at the same time, these manly juices are resurrected. Manly juices.
Okay, it sounds a little bit gross.
I know. I was like, what is that? What juice?
It could be talking like testosterone or something.
Yeah.
Juices are resurrected.
Yeah.
I guess like the hidden like testosterone that they've been, like the manliness that they've been putting away is finally out of its cage. Where is that at?
Yeah.
On page 82, it's
82.
Yeah, it's the paragraph that starts with arm wrestling.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like especially when okay, so if you're in prison, you don't do anything. Like you are in your cell, you eat, and then you have like your recreational time. And so I feel like they have to find like an outlet, like for I don't even know, like
a lot of prisons have classes though. Like a lot of people get their GED in prison, and then they have they have courses like different ones.
Yeah. They have different activities. Yeah, that's what you need in prison, but jail, like county jail, is just you're just there.
Yeah. So. And so I think that's like they need something to fill that time, and so they use that like that's I feel like they kind of how to word it like they so they're probably like angry obviously if they're in jail, so I feel like that they use that and like that's when they kind of like I don't even know.
Yeah.
I think after for a lot like when you're looking at like federal prison or after county jail, I think people are pretty much over the fact. I mean, they realize I'm gonna be here for a while, so I might as well do stuff to keep me occupied. Like he was saying a lot about them doing stuff like that to keep them sane. Yeah.
Yeah. On page 83, under the do masculinity, it says the prison environment triggers a masculine awareness in me. I go on masculine alert. I don't walk around with biceps flexed and chest expanded, pretending to be a tough guy in front of anybody looking my way. So like, I feel like it almost, especially if you're a man in prison, like you have, it's like expected for you to like, be like, you need to be more masculine.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it's like you don't cry. If you do, and then it goes into like the whole like softness and hardness thing about how you can be classified like as hard or soft, and that's when like the rape stuff comes in. I feel like so.
And with the part of the soft part, once again referring back to that show, they had a show where a guy pretended that he was gay, because they have like a gay section, and then if you're not gay, you're going to a whole different area with guys who are more masculine. So he was scared of that side, so he pretended like he was gay, to be with the other people.
Wait, they split up the gay and then.
Yeah, they do. I think
it's kind of like segregated. It's segregated, but like kind of I mean, you kind of get this feeling like it shouldn't be like that because we're taught that segregation is bad. But at the same time, it's probably the best thing for the men that are gay, for the fact that the way like the masculinity is in prison, like they're not gonna survive and they're not gonna be happy and they're gonna be hurt.
That's kind of a stereotype because you have gay masculine men.
Mm-hmm.
So why do they have to?
Because you have those men that you see like in the real world that you would never know they were gay because we have this stereotype of like gay men are flamboyant and they dress in like flamboyant clothes and heels and nail like, and it's like that's not how it is all the time. There's people that are gay that you would never know because of that stereotype. So I did not know that. Can you read the question one more time? The first one, sorry.
Yeah. Okay, so it says, previously this term we talked about gender as a performance or doing gender, where an individual is constantly working to achieve masculinity or femininity through actions, gestures, adornments, mannerisms, etc. How is masculinity performed in prison? So basically, doing gender is performing what you're expected. When you are male or female, you're performing what you're expected to be, I guess.
So sports would be a good example of that, and how he talks about arm wrestling.
Exactly.
And
because that's a manly thing to do. Like you don't see a lot of women doing that. So of course it's noted as a masculine activity. And they do that to show, like I mean, in here it says they do that to show their manliness or their masculinity.
Yeah, okay, so on page 84, under the softness and hardness thing, and there's like this is kind of a long paragraph, but it's like talking about like the difference, so it says, I'm just gonna read it, so it says, for some men then, the pursuit of sports and fitness activity is a personal quest to create a healthy body in an unhealthy environment. Those who succeed build a sense of accomplishment and garner the respect of others. Some men strive to be hard in order to build self-esteem. Being in prison is a colossal reminder of personal failure. A regular fitness regimen helps some men center mind and identity in the undeniably tangible locus of the body. For others, getting good at basketball or being recognized as a leading athlete earns the respect of peers. Damaged egos and healing sites drink in the recognition and repair themselves. It's like, it almost feels like high school, like they're trying to like gain that, I don't know.
Like themselves because they feel like I failed. I'm a failure because I'm in prison.
Yeah.
So they're trying to build themselves back up from that.
I had read on page 83, the little short paragraph before doing masculinity. It said, for some men, especially the young ones, athletics are no more than a pastime, a simple form of physical play, something to do to get to the end of another day. And for others, sports and fitness activities are a crucial survival strategy, a life practice that is intended to create and maintain physical and mental health in a hostile, unhealthy place. So, I feel like, the young ones, like, they're just getting there and stuff, so they just want to get through that day and, just do something just to pass time. But the ones that's been there for a while just wants to, I guess, survive and prove themselves and, like you guys said, proving themselves and everything, so.
It's just a way to
I would think that the old ones wouldn't really have to prove themselves because they've been there so long. Like they're established. Everybody knows. And so Joe, you don't mess with old Joe. I think that another way that masculinity is showed in the prisons is like we connect masculinity with dominance. So when we get into the rape, it's not just because I like men, it's because you're weaker than me and I can dominate you. And this is the only way, obviously, in prison to dominate you.
Right.
Exactly.
There was a part that actually talked about that.
It's on 85.
Oh yeah. Being hard can also be a defense against prison violence. The hard man sends the message that he is somebody to contend with, not a pushover, not somebody to fuck with. The sexual connotations of this last phrase take on a particular significance in the prison subculture where man-on-man rape is part of life. The act of prison rape is tied to maintaining the status order among maids and male groups. Blacks may rape whites or vice versa in order to establish dominant status. That's another way they would establish dominance is through rape. Older prisoners may use rape to enslave newcomers. Guards or prison administrators have been known to threaten to expose prisoners to greater threat of rape in order to evoke good behavior, to punish, or to squeeze information.
Yeah.
Like, okay, if you don't act right, I'm gonna expose you to the dudes that are known for raping people. Why are they not confined, like in the hole or something? Like, why?
It doesn't make sense.
Prison, I don't know if it's supposed to be civilized.
Yeah, you're right. I mean,
Or rape
you're
is
put
a
away
locked
from
up in the
society
real
for a
world.
reason.
Yeah.
They let them out.
I mean, but is that still like unethical? Even though if they're in prison, like could that still be considered unethical and like inhumane that they're being exposed to that type of violence and everything?
Well, once you go to prison, people don't see you as human. They don't really see you as deserving of rights.
You're a number.
Because you did something to put yourself in prison.
Yeah. One thing like that, like when you go, you get a number and you're known by that number. Exactly. It's not like your name, like your number is such.
Do you want to say anything else? Number 2. What exactly are men trying to achieve in prison according to the author? How do sports, softness, and hardness, dominance, hierarchy, and rape figure in here? I think we just discussed 2 questions in today.
Yeah, they're trying to get dominance and they're trying to get respect.
Yeah.
Proving themselves. It just says how exactly are men trying, or how, what exactly are men trying to achieve in prison according to the author?
I think they're trying to maintain a steady sanity.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
A lot of
definitely.
prisoners, I would assume, are only crazy and not crazy, are only insane during the point when they committed their crime.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think once you get to a place like that and you've been there for, I don't know, a couple months, couple years, you realize what you did was wrong. Now, there are legally insane people in there who are still insane, but I mean, I think that a lot of them are trying to regrow themselves.
And like that
Like you
doesn't,
said, the psyche.
yeah, and like that doesn't even like account for the few people in there that were wrongly accused.
Yeah.
And like it makes me think about that. Like if they're in there, like first of all, it's like they don't even have anything. Like I feel like even if you're in there for a reason that you did something, at least it's like okay, well I did that. You know what? I'm not gonna do it again. I can work on this. But if you didn't do it and you just got thrown in prison, like wrongfully accused, like
Wouldn't you
What
start
do you
to think,
have?
like, wouldn't you start to think you're going insane?
yeah,
Because
You're
you've been
going
there.
to regular society to go into that level of harshness and all that testosterone and dominance and seeing like all these bad people in society locked up in one place. I'm sure they're not all bad, but I mean, still, like it's totally different. It's just
But
totally
they
different
drill it
environment.
into your head that this is what you did.
Yeah, and
You
did
deserve
it,
this.
You did do it, and this is
Yeah.
this is what happens. Because I mean, prison is to teach. You're getting taught a lesson. Society's teaching you a lesson. Like, hey, you know, if you don't stay within your perimeter here, you go out crazy.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like it teaches a lesson, but it doesn't teach a lesson. Because just like here, where it's saying like, you know, men out here who might be robbing people or doing this, doing that to try to survive and provide for their families, then they get into prison and still have to try to survive and still have to try to, you know, make it through. They gotta become, some people become a worse person because you're gonna sit here, you're gonna do this stuff trying to get down what you get. So I feel like, I don't know, it's a constant cycle kind of.
Vicious cycle.
Yeah.
And I think it's like a lot. Okay, so I think a lot of what they were trying to accomplish is just like getting through it and like getting through each day. And they do that by, you know, expressing their dominance, by raping others, by playing sports, by working on their like physique and stuff like that. Like that's a way for them to like put their mind focused on something. So
I had just, I had just, it's so funny. I had just finished watching season 2 of Orange is the New Black.
Oh, God, I love that.
That show is so funny to me. Oh, I was laughing, and I was just like, it was funny because Piper would call up like her fiance and be like, I just want a Snickers and da 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 da. He's like, okay. She's like, you just don't understand how hard it is to be here. And like she was trying to survive in there, and I guess like to her family, it was nothing. They didn't understand, and so I think it kind of relates to that too, you know. So, I don't know.
I mean, no one on the outside knows what it is on the inside.
Yeah.
Unless you're only, you get on the inside, then.
And you set free.
Well, there is, but we pretty much talked about it when we were discussing the first question. If you wanted to reiterate anything, I can read it in the second half. Okay. How do sports, softness and hardness, dominance, hierarchy, and grade figure in?
Hierarchy, we talked about that when we were talking about the older men versus the younger men.
Yeah.
Softness and hardness,
One way or the other.
yeah, like how they're being athletic and everything.
On page 84, the author talked about the prisoners trying to achieve like a status.
Yeah.
So that goes with that question as well.
Are you soft or are you hard?
Yeah. Yeah.
Personality. Did we want something else? Question 3. Okay. Question 3. How does prison magnify contradictions in men's lives? What are these contradictions?
Making them palatable.
It contradicts the idea, I think, that men, I'm saying it backwards, but it inflates the idea that men have to be masculine, and that's the only way the proper way, when really a lot of men outside of prison, everybody's not masculine. Everybody doesn't play football or basketball to the death to show their masculinity.
And I think in prison, in terms of masculinity, they're only showing one way to be masculine. But in reality, what is masculinity? I mean, it's so many different things. It's not just one thing. It's not like soft or hard. It's not, femininity isn't just softness. It's not being flamboyant. It's not being girly. It's like, it's not cut and dry or black and white. It's a big gray area.
And I feel like, okay, so I feel like men, when you're not in prison, I think that men are, like, some men, in a way, are supposed to be, like, nurturing and caring, like, towards their wife. And they're supposed to be, like, somebody who, take your son out to throw the baseball and stuff. And it's like, in a way, they're supposed to be, like, the protector and stuff. And now I feel like they're completely on the deep end. It's like, when they're in the prison, like, it's not about anybody else. It's not, you don't have friends. Like, I mean, you may have friends, but, like, ultimately, whereas if, let's say you were married with kids, like, that was who you cared about. That's who you protected. And now you're protecting yourself.
Yeah, he talks about it in here also, you trust no one, not the guards, not the government, not anybody in there, not everybody back home, you trust nobody but yourself. And I completely agree with that, because if all of society blocked you out and put you somewhere, I mean, who are you really gonna trust? I mean, think about it. You're not gonna trust anybody. But the question that says, what magnifies contradictions, there's actually a little paragraph right here.
Oh, yeah, I had that. I think
Yeah,
that's a
when I
good
hear that.
contradiction right there, talking about, for many prisoners, it was for becoming like a big man, like joining a gang, or being called like a gangster, or being a good provider, trying to earn money, being a good husband, things like that. Like, I think in our society, we think that's being a man, providing, however you do it, whatever. But in there, it's like being a man, it's like arm wrestling, the activities and the statuses between all those prisoners and the rapes and stuff. It's,
Making your
Yeah.
your status and yourself known,
yeah.
making it known to everyone else that you know how to protect yourself, you can stand up for yourself,
Right.
and you can perform all these masculine roles.
Yeah. And I think, this bottom paragraph on page 85 really pertains to that question well. It says, Yeah, okay. It says, perhaps the greatest contradiction pervading prison sports is that despite the diversity of gendered meanings and practices that prisoners attach to their bodies through sports and exercise, the cultural mandate for hardness and toughness prevails. Men's soft sides remain hidden, suppressed, and underground. The punitive and often violent structures of prison hierarchies persist, breathing aggression and fear into men's bodies and minds. The same tragic contradiction informs men's life in sports outside the prison walls, where structured gender inequality and sexism constrain efforts to reform gender relationships toward a helpful affirmation of life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like there's also another part, if you look right in the conclusion on 85, it says, the irony here is that these scripted quests for manly power led in part to incarceration and loss of freedom and dignity for lots of prisoners and countless men on the outside. Adherence to the traditional pathways to masculinity turned out to be a trap. So like it's saying like those people that were like robbing in order to be a good provider or husband, or braving the violence of the drug trade, raping or beating on women in order to prove manly superiority, or embezzling to achieve financial success and masculine adequacy. So it's like those things that they were doing, like to be a good father, to show that they're, dominant,
Yeah.
like ultimately trapped them.
Yeah.
Like it completely backfired.
Exactly.
And it's like, I don't know.
So in other words, the prison system is another institution that reinforces gender roles.
Yeah, because there's still
That's a really good, that's a really good. It really does.
That was it for the first reading.
Okay,
So then move on to the second one.
Yeah.
235.
Yeah.
Okay, white privilege, unhappy, invisible, accent.
This was insane.
This was so crazy. I love
It made me realize a lot. These readings really opened my eyes to a lot of things I didn't see before. Are we ready for this question?
Yeah.
Okay, number one. How are privileges denied or protected? How are certain groups taught to not recognize privilege? Oh Lord, can I just say the first thing?
Go ahead.
The whole white privilege thing. I didn't even know what white privilege was until last semester. I'm 19 years old. So I'm so serious. I didn't know what it was, but it's totally true. I totally agree with it, and I think it's, in my opinion, I think it's horrible. But I didn't learn about it until last semester, so I feel like I was lied to for a long time.
But I feel like that's the thing, is like, if you, I think I might have said this somewhere, maybe I made this up, I don't know, but, it said like, if you don't think, or like if you don't realize that you're a part of the white privilege, then you are, like then you actually are, like so if you don't, like if you don't think twice, like I went to go by, if I'm walking on the street at night or something, I don't think twice about, are people gonna be scared of me?
Yeah.
Then,
Oh, that must be a
that.
terrible feeling.
Yeah.
Just like we were talking about Chapel Hill, about the 3 Muslim students who were shot.
Oh,
I man.
I don't think that, that white privilege, I don't think that you're lied to anyway. I think it's just so subtle. And
Yes.
it's been built over time
Well,
because
at least
of the
where I
dominant race.
grew up, there's not like, people aren't very racist or homophobic. It's a pretty open community. And I couldn't believe, I was like, white privilege, but I'm like, this makes sense to me. I feel like this is a thing, this is real. And, I don't know, this was a great reading for me.
And I think it's great. We have it on page 22, like at the bottom where it's like my schooling gave me no training in seeing myself as an oppressor, as an unfairly offended person, or as a participant in a damaged culture. But oftentimes in schools they always talk about, Black history that we went through and how we oppressed people and all this stuff like that.
That's exactly what it says. Like, as a white person, I realized I've been taught about racism as something which puts others at a disadvantage, but had been taught not to see one of its corollary aspects, white privilege, which puts me at an advantage. I think whites are carefully taught not to recognize white privilege, as males are taught not to recognize male privilege. So I've begun in an untutored way to ask what it is like to have white privilege. So it's like we're taught that like all about like racism, how it's like all this awful thing, and like, but it's only
Yes, then we're talking about how
Yeah.
they're at a disadvantage, but as us for like white girls, we're not really taught that because it's like it's kind of like a known thing, like that a lot of other people aren't really racist against white people. I mean, I'm sure they are, but I mean like from where we're from the area, like we're not taught about it because it's not really
Exactly.
a relevant thing there.
It's
For
not
me, it's
relevant.
not.
It wasn't a thing, and I feel like that's exactly what I mean, is that I was taught about the horrible things that happen to other races, but
We never talk about the good things that happen to us, because we're taught not to think that we're better because we're white. But when we bring up the fact that the facts are right here, it's not that we are, but if you look at the way society is, it's white privilege.
Yeah.
It's crazy because, Caucasians, they're just living. It's not like, you know what I'm saying? Like they're trying to be at an advantage, but they're just living. Whereas sometimes us Americans, we have to, it seems like we're always, I mean, not always, but kind of on pins and needles because we don't want to seem like if you're going to a job interview, if you're talking to them on the phone, you don't want to sound like you're from the hood or something like that. You have to change it up, and even down to your hair sometimes you don't want to go in with braids you might wear every day or twists, you want to change your hair. And so it's just different things like that. I don't think it's something out there that you are really going to be like, oh my God, I have to impress these people. And you know what I'm saying? It's just life, how life should be lived through every culture. You get what I'm saying?
I think that white privilege still lives on, and I think that whites aren't acknowledged about their privilege for a couple reasons. For one, I would think way back when, if people were teaching people that they were the oppressor, then they would want to do something about
Act
that
on
or
that.
change it, and no, we need to keep everything how it is. So
Well, just think about that, we have This Is Black History Month, We have Black History Month, and we celebrate all the African American people who fought for equality.
But one of my cousins posted this on Facebook the other day, and it was so strange because he was a little annoyed because I'm from Winston, so that's Forsyth County schools, and his niece or daughter comes home and she's talking about Columbus, and he's like, why are we talking about Columbus in Black History Month? Should y'all not be talking about African Americans? And he was just so disturbed about it, and I was like, well, I don't know, but
in high school we had on the announcements, it was something different for Black History Month every single day.
Oh yeah.
they don't do good stuff like that.
Wow.
I'm not talking about Christopher Columbus, because I can say right now, he,
I don't know why we're still
1492, he came over here and stole our land, I can say it right now. But I just want to say, page 237, I thought it was interesting, it's italicized. My skin color was an asset for any move I was educated to want to make. Meaning, we're at such an advantage that we can pretty much make any kind of decision we want. We don't have to think about the repercussions right away. We don't have to, like you said, the job interview. Because our hair is different, I can just straighten my hair and good to go. I just leave it as it is because I'm lazy. But you have to worry about what kind of hair you have, and that sucks because it's you want to be yourself, but at the same time you can't be. All because of something stupid.
Yeah. They even did this study where they had one white guy and one black guy, and they were going for the same job. And the black guy, his record was, pretty good, no charges or anything. But the white guy, he had a few charges on his record, and they still chose him over the black guy.
Well, I've seen a lot of studies because I'm a psych major, and that's based on names as well.
Yeah.
Like if your name is Latoya or Sarah, Sarah's probably gonna get the job.
Exactly. Yeah.
You heard about the Jose thing, right? Where there was this guy, this Hispanic guy, his name was Jose, and for the job interview, he changed his name to Joe, I think,
I did hear that.
to get the job.
Yeah.
Because
Did he get it?
I think so, yeah. Based on him changing his name.
Yeah.
Because had he not changed his name, he wouldn't have gotten the job.
But I don't really get that, like,
Because
he went in for the job, so they knew that he was,
Well, I guess, I don't know how it happened, I just read it in, one of my classes.
Well, sometimes when you go take an application back, the manager doesn't get it. You just hand it to an employee or the person that's not gonna be looking through the application. So,
But if you think about it though, if your boss is, like, if the manager in charge or whatever is white, and you get 2 applications and you see, like, what if it was the same guy, one was Joe, one was Jose, they're same application, you're looking at both of them, and, I mean, they have the same qualifications, and who do you call, really?
right.
I mean, you could call them both in for interviews, but, I mean, I wonder which phone call he would get, the one asking for Joe or the one asking for Jose? With the same phone number, I mean, really, like.
We had talked about this in our meeting calls with Dr. Pearson, and we were just talking about names yesterday, and looking at the averages, like, a black guy, Jamal, versus a Brandon, and Brandon, would get the job or whatever. And this had actually happened to me before I started coming here. I'm from Winston, so I applied to UNCW with one of my white friends, and me and her been friends since, like, middle school, so, like, we both had applied at the time, we both were nursing majors, and we both had the same GPA, like, around the same area, and we both, like, had everything kind of the same. I didn't get in, but she did, and I asked why. I went there and I called, and they just gave me, like, a bunch of excuses, and I felt like my name had to do a lot with it. Her name was Allison.
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 Yeah.
They was like, oh, we didn't think, you were graduating this semester, you said you're graduating next semester. No, you knew.
Yeah.
You had it on there, and I was like, it's not that, like, what really is it? And they just kept, like, putting me around the bush, so I was like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
You can't judge someone based on their name. Like, you
Yeah.
need to meet them first.
Yeah.
And like you wonder if like I don't know, it's crazy though that people still like would name their kids like crazy stuff, knowing that like this is still happening. It's like why? I'm not trying to be rude or anything. Like why would you name your kid something that's like ridiculously crazy? Like you may think it sounds crazy, but like it's gonna make them like struggle in the future and make them like suppressed.
I mean, that's another thing that people have to worry about.
Yeah.
And it's not just, one race having to worry about it.
Yeah, it's not one
A lot of
race.
people.
It's not one
And
race.
but I think people don't worry about that, and that would go back to white privilege because they wouldn't have to worry.
And it's
about
not just African American people, it's Muslim people. And it's Muslim people too, because like, and Hispanic people. I'm trying to think of like a Muslim name.
And some of the names are not even that crazy. Like,
Muhammad. After like 9/11 and everything, like if somebody's name's like Muhammad or something, who are they gonna call back? John or Muhammad?
So I don't think you can predict anything like that though. If you name your kid.
you want the best.
Yeah.
And you
Because
hope
in that culture, I think that's a pretty predominant established name. Like in their culture, if you have a name like that,
Yeah.
it's just common.
Yeah.
There, but like,
Like-
oh God, it's just
if you name your kid Mercedes,
Yeah.
not you do
But
that.
I mean, think about it. If we moved over there with our white names.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think, like, they might do that, like, they ever seen or known, like, Asians come over here and their names, they have an Asian name and they give them, like,
one of my RAs last semester.
Yeah, they'll
His
give them,
name is Jesh, but his parents didn't know how to spell Jesse
yeah,
when they came over here, so they just put Jesh.
yeah.
And he goes by Jesse.
But it's a lot of times, they give them the names that are usually known to Caucasian people, like the Sarahs and Jessies and I've never seen a Longfish.
But seriously, like, so.
I know, like, where I'm from, like, I have, like, a lot of mixed friends, black, white, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So, I grew up, not really caring about my name, but then when I went to, like a black school, I went to, like, a black high school, but I went to a white middle school. So I kind of dealt with my name like a lot.
Yeah.
And like my black friends would be like, your name is so ghetto. Quintus, I was like, shut up.
It's not
Just
ghetto.
shut up. I was like, it's not ghetto, it's unique. I'm unique.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh. And you know, one of my friends would be like, oh, that's so pretty, you know, I'm like, oh, thank you. You know, she was
The
so
Sarahs. I bet it was the Sarahs.
You know, so
Yes.
yeah, it was just real difficult. And I know my god sister now, she's going through the little stage about her hair.
Yeah.
Whether she want to be natural or get it relaxed, you know?
Yeah.
So she's like, what's the difference? And I'm like, yes. It is a difference. But you
Yeah.
have to know like what you want to do, but do it for you, not for anybody else.
Exactly.
You
I
know?
feel like everyone should have that right.
Yeah.
Wear
Yeah.
makeup or do your hair a certain way, not based on
Yeah.
other people, but for yourself.
Right.
Everyone should be able to do that.
One of my friends had applied to Hooters, and she's African American. She didn't get it because her hair was natural. It was like really big and real natural. And they're like, in order for you to get it, you have to take that down.
Oh, there's
So
there's
like
like
get
this
it relaxed
series
or
about
something. She's like, I've been natural for so and so years, and they're like, well, in order to work here, you know.
But you also don't want to damage your hair. Like,
Yeah.
damage happens to all hair
It
types.
fall
Hello.
off.
Heat damage
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
I'm just not using my straight hair.
Yeah. So she didn't do it. I was glad. Because
Yeah,
it for her, not
yeah.
for the job and stuff. That's just crazy because her hair could fall off, something could go wrong.
I had a friend who she said she got 2 new perms and her hair started falling out on her pillow when she was asleep.
Oh my
Because it
god.
damaged her hair so much.
Everything's saying, I know. Been through years.
Okay. Okay, do you want to say anything else about
No.
one? Okay, so here, 2 out of 6. Read through the list of 26 conditions of privilege. It's on page 236. Which ones resonate with you? What are some other dimensions of privilege that need to be unpacked? Oh, these were good.
The one that I resonated with me the most was when she was talking about how she can stand up in front of her peers and not feel like she is going to be judged or looked at as a whole culture. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, if I'm black and I stand up in front of a crowd of white people, I would be representative of everyone in my culture.
And does anyone really want to be representative of the entire culture? I don't think so. No. Because I know, for me personally, like, I don't feel like, oh, when people look at me, I'm not like those crazy white guys who go shooting up movie theaters and killing poor innocent kids.
Number 11, too, I can arrange to protect my children most of the time from people who might not like them. Which I think that is a big privilege because whites, if their kids have trouble in school, they either have the option to move their kid and they can be a car rider, whereas in the black community, they don't like you, you gotta fight, you gotta stay out their way because that's the school you gotta go to and that's it. End of discussion.
Number 26, I can choose blemish cover or bandages and flesh color and have them more or less match my skin.
This is the one I was gonna say.
Yeah,
What?
That's crazy. And the thing is, I never
I
thought about it like
never
that.
thought about that. I mean, I know when you think about it, there's the neutral for like the, I guess, the person, and then there's like the Dora the Explorer band-aids, and there's like every other kind, and there's like the brightly colored, but do you ever actually find like, you don't.
And same with like foundations. Foundations are like, they cater to mostly, I'm just gonna say it, they cater to mostly white skin tones.
I had to go to Walmart last night for a project in my class and I had to see what races were out there in cosmetics and only L'Oreal and one other one had like darker tones,
And
not
they're
just
not
like
even, they don't even match.
dark tones.
Yeah.
Yep. I just wanna, before anybody else, sorry. Number 18, I can be pretty sure that if I ask to talk to the person in charge, I will be facing the person of my race.
Oh my
And
God.
for example, I work at Walgreens back where I'm from, and there's only like 2 or 3 black women on on staff, like employees, but there's no one besides white men in charge.
Wow.
That's my job.
Exactly.
That's my,
Male
oh, there's a
privilege
black
too,
man.
male privilege too.
Yeah, yeah. The same goes between like doctors, when everyone thinks of a doctor, it's automatically like white male, you know, male, obviously, but when nurses, oh, it can be black nurse, white nurse.
Hey, no,
whatever.
no, no. My doctor before the one I'm seeing now back home, he is African. And I mean, he's cool, but the only thing I don't like about him, and it's probably wrong for me to say this, like, I have a problem understanding people with accents. Like,
That can be anybody.
yeah, it's not just him. Like, my best friend is Hispanic. We were at Target the other night, and the lady was telling me to put the candy I bought in the bag with the other candy, and I was like, what? And I'd ask her 5 times, and my friend just started speaking to her in Spanish, and she was like, Ashley, put the candy in the bag. Do you not understand? And I'm like, my ear just doesn't work for accents. Like, it's really hard for me to learn other languages too, and I don't know why. It's just something I've always struggled with. But like, my doctor, his name is Dr. Okonkwo, and he's from somewhere over like Africa or something, and it's really hard for me to understand him. So it was difficult him being my doctor, honestly.
My
Like,
mom's
it really
OG
was.
plan is Jamaican. He's one of the nicest guys ever. And he's got a long-standing practice, same qualifications as anybody. I don't understand that.
Yeah, if a traffic cop pulls me over, the IRS audits my tax return, I can ensure I haven't been singled out because of my race. I remember one time I was leaving the gas station, I forgot to turn my lights on, but my house was like right down the street. So a cop pulled me over, he was like, you know your lights? I was like, oh yeah, I just left the gas station, I forgot to turn them on. Have you been drinking? It's like, drinking? I said, no. So, are you sure? I said, yes, I'm sure. He's like, whose car is it? It's like, it's my car. What are you talking about? Like, what is this inquisition? I was really about to get ill. Lord Jesus. He was saying, but he ended up letting me go. But I was like,
Yeah, but if you think about it realistically, like, if that would have been me in that situation, what would, I mean, if you pulled me over and been like, hey, Sheila, turn your lights are on, like, you need to just turn your lights on, like, okay, sir, thank you.
exactly. I was like,
But that's what really does
it's
happen.
crazy. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
it does. It's scary. We were watching some bits and pieces of Crash. We had in my obedience class. It's pretty good. I've seen parts of it. I haven't watched the whole thing. But I think they have the movie here in the library. You can check it out if you want. But in there was a part of the scene where 2 African Americans were driving this Yukon Denali, and the cop had just got, something about a Yukon Denali was stolen or something. But it was the wrong people, the tags didn't match, and he still went after them. And he went after them, and he seen that the wife was giving her husband a fellatio in the car and stuff. And he stopped him over, he was like, oh, what are you doing? He was like, whose car is this, too? And he was just like, can you get out the car, you've been drinking tonight? And they were like, no, like, we don't drink at all. He's like, I'm Buddhist. He's like, oh, you're African-American, you're Buddhist. He was like, can I not?
Exactly.
Yeah. It was real stupid.
Yeah.
It was real stupid.
I think I know what your movie you're talking about.
Yeah.
I think
yeah.
so. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. It was pretty good. A little bit.
Yeah.
It was disturbing sometimes.
Okay, we'll see. Number 3, how do these arguments presented by McIntosh dismantle the myth of, oh Lord, I can say that word, I don't know, can you pronounce that?
Yeah, you're right. Meritocracy.
Okay.
What does that word mean?
I don't even know.
I think it's like earning what, or working for what you have, and then you earned it.
Oh, that makes sense.
So what's the question?
It says, how do these arguments presented by McIntosh dismantle the myth of?
Because she's throwing out all the privileges
Yeah.
and basically demoting and saying it wasn't earned, it wasn't given.
Oh.
It wasn't earned, it was given to.
I'm not talking about, because in here it says that, no matter how hard you work, if you are white, you're always gonna have that privilege, you're always going to be a step ahead, even if you're like, well, I worked for it, but at the same time, you were already privileged. language. So you're already gonna get there.
Yeah.
That's what I somewhere, I can remember what it was.
We're not on time anyway, so. Well, this has been great time.
Until next time.
Bye.